Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the ABCs of Communicating on You Can Talk. My name is Ruth Finney, and this morning we are going to be talking about the subject of moods. Moods. I hope everyone is in a good mood, but you know, they can. We know that they can change. Our moods can change. So this morning we're going to talk about how moods can affect how we communicate in our relationships. And first, I want to talk about why moods are slightly different than emotions, right? Our moods can be very different than our emotions, and sometimes it can be difficult to know the difference. So, what is the difference? Well, number one, moods are typically more of like a chemical reaction, and they tend to last longer than an emotion. And in fact, our moods can cause us to have different emotions. There are different reactions. Um, Moods tend to be an overall feeling, where an emotion tends to be something that we can pinpoint, like we can pinpoint something that causes us a situation or an interaction, an incident that specifically causes us to have an emotional reaction to something. But a mood typically is something that is an overall feeling. Sometimes we don't even know that we're in a particular mood, that our mood has changed, because it can be that subtle. It can be that minimal, right? The change in how our mood is being affected can change easily and quickly and subtly. So we don't always know sometimes until someone tells us, like, you seem to be in a strange mood. You seem to be in a different kind of mood. Are you sad? Are you happy? Are you depressed? Whatever it is. And we'll look at them and say, oh, I didn't realize that, my mood had changed. Sometimes we don't even realize. But our mood affects everything about how we communicate, right? Because it affects our tone, it affects our approach, it affects the words that we say, the words that we allow to come out of our mouth. How we choose to express ourselves. If we're happy, we're going to express ourselves excitedly. If we're in a sad mood or a down mood, typically we may be pretty melancholy. All sorts of, our mood, our overall mood affects how we talk to someone, how we approach a situation, how we receive information, how we take in conversation. It affects all of that. So it can vary if we're going to be, whether or not we're content or whether or not we're going to be complimentary, right? In our words, or joyful. Good morning, Harrison. How are you? Good morning. That was a great live last night. I went back and watched it from the beginning since I came in late. Very good talk. I enjoyed that. So our mood affects everything, like I say, about how we communicate. So for instance, like let's think about when we're on vacation, right? When I'm on vacation, my husband and I are on vacation, we tend to be very relaxed. We're very laid back. We're very patient with each other and with strangers. We can tolerate things more. So much changes because we can be our authentic selves, right? There's no expectations. Driving and listening. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You ran down your schedule last night and your morning schedule so that you're very regimented with. So good. I'm happy you're here. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it so much. I do. But when we're on vacation, we can be our authentic selves, right? So we don't have to try to impress anyone. We don't have to try to be anything. Our words tend to be very kind and open. We're open to talk to people. And if you've ever noticed, when we're on vacation, a lot of times we meet the nicest people on vacation, right? Because everybody is typically in a relaxed and kind mood and excited and just happy to be present, happy to be alive, right? We have vacation gives us time to look back and be grateful on the things that we've accomplished over, since before we went on vacation. And so And that's part of the reason why we like to go on vacation, periodically throughout the year, as often as we can, besides this coronavirus going on. But when we're on vacation, we don't care about judgment. We don't care about other people's opinions, like I say. So in our conversation changes with people because we're more relaxed and we're more at ease and we're less what's the word, like just tied up. Good morning, Cullen. How you doing? Good morning. How are you doing this morning? I hope everyone's in a good mood because we're talking about moods this morning and how we communicate through moods. But let's look at the flip side, right? Let's look at the flip side. When we're on vacation, everything's all good, but let's look at the flip side. Like say when we're in a hospital, right? The whole different ball game, whole different mood. People are usually sick or they're in pain. They're not feeling well. They have an overall not feeling well. They may be depressed. And so their conversation is very different, right? The conversations that we hear in a hospital setting is very different, right? People may be irritated. They may be angry. They may be very reactive, highly reactive to things, very emotional. And so the words that come out of a person's mouth sometimes when they're in a hospital can sound very different than when they're on vacation, because a lot of times people don't like being in hospitals. They don't want to be the patient. They don't even want to have to visit people in the hospital. And so the whole mood changes, the whole conversation changes. We can get very intolerant of things when we are in the hospital, where we can completely check out, right? There's also the times where we can completely check out. We can go into a hospital and people just won't even say anything at all. They'll just be completely quiet. Hold on. So how do we go about dealing with very, some of these different types of mood? It can be very frustrating. It can be very frustrating to figure out, what's going on with the person. Like, why are they in this mood? How long is this mood going to last? How am I supposed to approach them, with this type of mood that they're in? What should I say? What shouldn't I say? It can be very difficult dealing with people who are in different moods because they can be unpredictable. And we can be at a loss trying to figure out how to communicate, or even just sometimes trying to figure out what mood they're in and how they got there. And, if there's anything that we can do about it to get them out of it. So moods can be very frustrating to communicate in. So we're going to look at 4 different challenging moods this morning and try to look at some ways that we can work to communicate with people when they're in this mood. And the first mood that we'll look at is depression. Let me get this up here. So the first mood we'll look at is depression. Depression is a very common mood for millions of Americans. Some people know that they're depressed. Some people don't know that they're depressed. It's that feeling of sadness or maybe a sense of worthlessness that just sits over a person's spirit, and it can literally take over your mental health and well-being. It can cause us to feel like a blanket is over you that you just can't come up out of. And it can be very difficult to understand, if you don't deal with depression, how to communicate with a person who is depressed. We get frustrated, we get impatient. We don't understand. We think, well, why? We think that it's a choice, right? We think that it's a choice. And a lot of times when it comes to these extreme moods, and especially a mood like depression, it's not a choice, because most of the time, if people could pull themselves out of it, do something to pull themselves out of it, then they would. People don't typically want to be depressed because it makes people feel bad. So the first thing we have to realize is that it's not a choice, and that a lot of times people can't just, do something to change that depressive mood. Like, something simple like, oh, well, just go be happy, right? Go watch a TV show or listen to some music and change your mood. For some people in milder cases of depression, that can be the case. We can go outside, we can take a walk and feel better. But for other people who have a severe chemical depressive type of, mood that they're dealing with, it's not so simple. They can be taking medication, and sometimes the medication works and sometimes it doesn't, as well. So it just depends. So how do we deal with that? How do we communicate with people who are constantly depressed? And I know exactly how challenging it can be. So the first thing we want to make sure that we do is that try not to fix it, right? The quickest way to get a depressed person irritated is to tell them something that we think will fix their depressive state. Well, here, just do this and you'll be fine. And you won't have to deal with this depression. So the first thing we want to do, we don't want to try to fix it, think that we can just fix it with something simple. So the first thing we want to try to do is understand it and accept it. We have to understand that they're depressed and understand that we may not understand why. Be okay with understanding that we don't know why they're depressed, but we have to not deny or denounce what they're feeling. So we have to understand it and we have to accept it. And that alone goes a long way with removing barriers, okay? Because people get defensive, they get upset, they get angry when we feel like when we don't accept that they're depressed. So just accepting it and understanding it that they are depressed, believe what they're saying. They're not happy. They're depressed, and so believe it and accept it. Sometimes when it comes to a depressed person, silence is actually therapeutic. Sometimes they don't need us to be talking to them about what we think that they should do. And it's better to just sit with them, lie with them, hang out with them, not doing anything in particular. Just our presence a lot of times is comforting, and they don't always need us to speak, because not all pain or depression, the things that they're going through, needs to be talked about, believe it or not. Sometimes they just want to sit in it for a while, or they don't want to talk about it and rehash the things or rehash, the reasons why they're depressed, especially if it's something that they've been dealing with for a long time. So get out of feeling the need to force a conversation on them, because if so, all we're going to do is arouse their emotion. If we arouse their emotion, then they're going to, it may not be an emotion that we want to arouse, right? And then we're going to be having conversations that we typically may not want to have. If they choose to talk, if they're in a state where they're choosing to talk, let them choose the topic. Let them decide what it is they want to talk about, and go and start there. Start from there. Don't force talking about specific conversations, that they may not necessarily want to talk about at the time, or let them know if it is something that you need to talk about, because they would never choose to talk about it. Then let them know, we need to talk about this. Can you let me know? It would say, and give them a time frame over the next week or two when we can talk about the situation, because I know this is not something that's easy for you. I know it's not something that you enjoy talking about, but we need to address it. We need to, talk about it. So let me know over the next week or two when will be a good time for us to talk about this. So that tends to help if you allow them the opportunity and allow them the time to have the conversation and give them a little control over it versus forcing it upon them. It helps if we can, when you're dealing with someone who's depressed, if you can find some things to incorporate that they do enjoy, some sort of thing that gives them enjoyment, whether it's being outside, whether it's taking on an activity that they do enjoy. Try to put them in a space, even when you are having a conversation, put them in a space where they enjoy themselves, and it may not be because they're just extremely happy, but you can tell there's a sort of contentment going on, that they're okay. You can tell that they're in an okay space. And then sometimes those are great times to have conversations, different conversations. And if you are, and this is important for the person who is dealing with the depressed person, is that it's often you need to have an outlet yourself. You need to have an outlet yourself, something that gives you fulfillment and something that gives you joy. Because if you're living with someone, especially if you're living with someone who's in a constant depressive state, it's gone on for years, it can be very draining. It can be very draining. So surround yourself with people on occasion. Get out of the house, surround yourself with people who pour into you, who give you the type of conversation that you need, appropriate conversations, appropriate relationships, if you're married, and find a place for you to go get restored, refilled, and rejuvenated. Because when you live with people who are constantly depressed, it can be very mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually draining. And you too can find yourself falling in a depressive state. So if you do, get out and find something, some hobbies, some activities, some support groups or friendships that you can go out and get refilled with. It's very, very important that you do that so that you can continue to be in a good mood and in a good state when you're back in the home with the depressed person. Okay. So the next one we'll talk about is anxiety. This person who deals with the mood of anxiety all the time. It can be a constant feeling of nervousness or outright fear when you're dealing with someone who lives with anxiety. Things can happen outside of their control that causes them to, have these type of reactions, and these type of can switch their moods. You can tell a lot of times people's mood change when they're going to the dentist's office or when they're having a doctor's appointment. Even when they're driving, sometimes you can feel their mood begin to change because that nervousness and anxiousness and fear is beginning to come over them. And we have to figure out how to talk them through, what it is that they're feeling, because it may be something that they have to do. Again, when we're dealing with someone who has anxiety, the first thing we want to do is that acceptance and understanding. One of the worst things we can do is say, why are you acting like that? Why is this such a big deal? This is no big deal. Get over it. We're just driving down the street. We're just getting on the highway. We're just going to the dentist's office. We're just going to a doctor's appointment. When people who don't deal with anxiety, it can be very frustrating for us to, try to understand how people who struggle with anxiety feels. And it's hard for us to put ourselves in their shoes. We're not always as easily able to get into that empathetic listening that they need from us, because we think that they're overreacting. We think that they're, just taking things out of proportion and, being afraid of things that they shouldn't be afraid of. We think that it's silly. And so we have to, which causes them to get upset and irritated and for barriers to be raised. And then the conversation changes, right? They get upset, they get irritated, they get frustrated, or they shut down. Or they cry, or then the emotions come in and they get even more anxious. They begin to, they may begin to have breathing panic attacks. It can, turn into a full-blown panic attack. So how we choose to handle people and communicate with people who have anxiety should look very different. We need to say, I understand that you're feeling this. Let's try to talk ourselves through it so that you don't have a panic attack, so that it doesn't turn into a panic attack. We want to make sure that we lower our tones in our voice. We try to calm their breathing. Make sure that we're not using aggressive tones. Well, just do this and just do that. Talk slower and change the approach of how our words are coming out of our mouths. Try to have them slow down. The main thing when you're dealing with someone with anxiety is that they're getting riled up. So try to slow things down, lower your voice, soften your tones, this type of thing, and listen to them. Listen to what they're saying as they're talking. Tell me what you're feeling. Tell me what emotions you're having, or what exactly, if they can tell you what exactly is causing them to feel that, what they're feeling. If we want to touch them, if you can touch them, you might need to give them a firm grip just so that they know that you're there. Or we may need to soften our grip and just, a soft touch to let them know that we're there. The most important thing is to allow them to move at their pace. Let them know what's going on. For years, I worked in a dental office as a dental hygienist for 10 years. And I can't tell you the number of people who have extreme anxiety when they're coming to the dentist's office. They don't even want to sit in the chair. So literally, I would have to talk them through walking into the building, walking into the room. I would constantly let them know what was going to be happening, what we were going to do next. Easing them into the chair, letting them sit there for a while, moving the chair slowly and not quickly, like, moving things slowly. And then also, I would let them hold the instruments that I was using. I would let them hold it so that they could feel like they had some control over what was about to happen to them. So if I would let them, hold their suction, or hold the mirror, put it in their mouth, just so that they could feel like they had some control. So it's the same type of thing. And then provide constant reassurance that you're going to be okay, because this is what's happening. You're in control of it. It's the same thing. We want to talk people through what they're feeling. You're going to get in the car. We're going to take our time getting onto the highway. We're going to stay in the slow lane. Talk them through as they're feeling this anxiety, and let them know that we're there for them. And the more control we can give them, the better off they'll be. The better off they'll be. All right. So the next one we'll talk about is anger. Anger is can be a scary mood to have to deal with. Number one, because it is unpredictable, and it absolutely makes people unapproachable, because we don't know how to approach them. When we see an angry person, we don't know if we need to step back. We don't know if we need to approach them and say, hey, calm down, or move out of the way. We don't know sometimes always how to deal with anger. We don't know what to expect. We don't know how to respond. So the first thing we want to do when we're dealing with someone with anger is just assess and observe, right? The first thing to do is just assess and observe. So step back a little bit, try to assess the situation, see what's going on, maybe see what has aroused their anger, and then, try to observe how they react to things. What type of angry person are we dealing with here? Someone who's erratic, extremely emotional. Are they going to be hitting things, throwing things, or are they just angry and, fussing and cussing at themselves, or whatever the situation is? So not everything deserves, like I say, a reply immediately. So sit back a little bit, assess the situation, see what's going on. Ask what's going on. Don't assume that we know. If you see them, just say, hey, are you okay? What's going on? I see you're highly upset. Is there something I can do for you? Did something happen? Not throwing things. Good morning, Burns. How are you? Good morning. Not throwing things. Yeah, if they're throwing things, you want to get out of the way, because you don't want to be caught up in as a target. So yes, be careful with how we respond and how we approach. So ask what's going on, listen to what they're saying full out. If they're angry, the first thing we'd like to do, especially if they're mad at us, is to get angry right back, to just, right back at them. Well, why are you acting like this? This is this is ridiculous. And, on and on and on. And then we're back, and it's back and forth. So the first thing we want to do is try to show some understanding, and watch our body language. Watch their body language. Try to allow them time to calm down. Try to allow yourself time to calm down, because sometimes their anger gets us aroused with anger, because we're mad that they're mad, right? So we have to try to calm down. We have to, change spaces if possible, change the location. before you start trying to have a conversation, because just a change of a room, being outside, going outside, stepping outside, or getting out from in front of particular people who may be causing the anger to occur, who may be arousing the anger, getting away from particular people, turning off distractions. Sometimes if music is playing or TVs are loud or kids are running around screaming and hollering, get away from those sort of type of reactions and get in a space that's more quiet and try to calm down, so that the two of you can have a conversation and get into the right headspace. A lot of times that immediately will calm a person down and then begin to work to try to find resolution if possible. Okay. So once you change spaces, once you get out of, that environment that's causing the anger, pull them away from the person who's, being angry, then typically people can get down to a space where they can at least conversate and say what's going on and why they're angry or what happened. Or the two of you can calm down a little bit and get to a space where you can talk to each other and say, now, I understand that you're mad. Now, what are you so mad about? Or if you know what they're mad about, try to just, talk through. I knew this would make you mad. I knew you would have this. I figured I was expecting this type of reaction. So, and then try to talk through it from there. So, and it can be difficult, but again, use calm tones, lower your voice, try not to yell and scream and all that stuff, because you're not going to get anywhere with that. It may feel relieving at the moment, but it's not going to be helpful in having the conversation. It's not going to be helpful in solving the situation or talking through a problem. And if our goal is to, have conversation, then we need to make sure that we're doing the things to get there, that we're not having this, long drawn out fight or brawl over a topic because our emotions are still too high. And let people know, hey, I'm too angry to talk about this right now, because I know that if I continue to talk about this, I'm going to say some things that I don't mean to say. So if you're not in a good space, or if someone makes you angry, then let people know. Don't be afraid to let them know. And if they, continue to come at you, pop, walk away. If you have to walk away, to say, I've told you, I'm not ready to talk about this right now. I'm going to walk away from this, and walk away from it. And if they continue on, let them continue on. But do what you need to do to keep in a calm, to keep yourself in a decent headspace, because other than that, the thing can get out of control before you try to communicate. So from there, take step back, listen to what you've heard, try to listen to the things that they've expressed, figure out what your goal is, what the intent is, and then try to work to have that conversation again once you've calmed down. Okay. The fourth one we'll talk about, and the last one we'll talk about, is that melancholy person, right? This is the person that we don't know what's going on in their minds, because they're always quiet. They're not very reactive. They're not very emotional. They don't talk a lot. And it's like, maybe pulling teeth, trying to get them to understand, trying to get them to talk. And so it can be very frustrating to try to communicate with a person who's not a big talker, if they're not, very expressive, and trying to figure out how to even begin to start communication with them. We don't get emotions out of them. Hello, Deb's Glad Tidings. How are you? Good to see you. Welcome this morning. We are talking about moods. I'll be on here just a little bit longer, but I appreciate you being here, and how we communicate through the different challenging moods that people have. And this next one we're about to talk about is melancholy. So this is that person that we don't know what's going on in their minds. They're calm, they're quiet, they're not very emotional, they don't talk a lot. And it's difficult to try to get them to do or say anything. It can feel like talking to a wall, as a matter of fact. So when we're dealing with this type of person, give them space, give them space. They tend to be introverts. They don't like people all up in their spaces. And try not to force conversation. When you're dealing with a melancholic person, it's almost a completely different approach. We have to look for alternative ways to get them to communicate. So we have to do a lot of observing. We have to do probably more observing than we are doing talking. So we have to pay attention. We have to pay attention to listen, maybe what are their favorite songs? What are their favorite TV shows? What do they like to do in their spare time? What are their interests? What are their hobbies? These are the things that we have to pay more attention to, the physical things than they do, because nothing's coming out of their mouth. And once we kind of observe those things about the person, then we can talk about those things that, start with what their interests are, start with their hobbies are. Oh, I see that you enjoy this. Is this something that you do all the time? Is this, something that you know a lot about, or how long have you been doing this? And begin to ask, simple questions about it, things that they're already interested in, because they're more likely to talk about things that they're already interested in, than for us to just force some, strange, different, specific conversation upon them. They're not going to respond to that. And if at all possible, if they don't want to talk, just put them in that environment that they enjoy, and then try to talk to them in that environment while they're doing something that they enjoy, because they're typically going to be in a lighter mood, or a better mood, and typically be more responsive to what you're saying, and incorporate what they're doing, if possible, into what it is that you need to talk about. So it can be very difficult, start with things like, well, what is your favorite thing about this? Why do you enjoy this so much? Can I join you? Can you talk to me? Can you talk me through this? Or, ask them something about it, so that we can just basically let them know that they matter. Because typically the introvert or the melancholic person feels that they matter to no one. Like, it doesn't matter what they do because no one's paying attention to them. And so if we show that we care, that we're paying, I haven't changed a single banner the whole time I was up here. So typically, if they know that we're interested, if they know that we care, that we're paying attention, they're more likely to conversate with us. They're more likely to, answer the questions that we have, or have the conversation that we want to have, if we first show interest in what it is that they're interested in. All right. So let them know that you matter to me, and I want to have conversation with you. And this is what I want to talk about. But let's talk about you. Let's talk about what you enjoy. Let's talk about the things that matter to you. And then they'll be more open to talk about the things that you want to talk about. All right. And keep the conversation short. Keep the conversation short. So that's all I have this morning on dealing with challenging moods and how to communicate our way through challenging moods. I hope you found something out of there that was helpful to you. Tomorrow is Thursday. Tomorrow's Thursday. So I want to remind everyone, for those of you who may not know yet, we are going to be on the Positive Pushers channel. We are doing a positive takeover. It'll be tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock Central Standard Time. And I'll be over there with 5 other women, Vern's Junk Closet, NQ's World, MJ&J, I Am Content, myself, and the Positive Pusher. And we will be over there doing a panel and talking about positivity. So if you, how to stay positive, especially during these stressful times. So if you are not busy, get over there on her channel, hit that bell reminder button so that you don't miss what we will be talking about over there. I hope everyone has a wonderful day. I'm going to say a quick prayer and then we'll be headed out. I appreciate you all for being here. Yes. Hey, Shanita Marie Randomly. How are you? I am content. She is. She's absolutely going to be on there. Yes, I love her as well. Great talk. Have a great day, everyone. Yes, and stay safe. All right, Father, I just thank you so much for this day. I thank you for your love, your grace, and your mercy, Father. Thank you for dealing with us when we are in our moods. Thank you for loving on us, providing for us, and forgiving us and giving us grace as we get in our moods, Father. You don't allow our moods to prevent us from doing the things, from loving on us and doing the things for us that we need. So, Father, help us show that same grace to others when we are faced with moody people, challenging people. Give us the patience and the understanding and the acceptance to accept what they're dealing with and struggling with, and not denounce or belittle the things that they're feeling. Help us to acknowledge them, accept them, and talk through it. Help us to not get discouraged as moods enter into our mental spaces and challenge us to not want to do things, to not want to conversate. So Father, help us to stay motivated and encouraged to talk our way through depression, to talk our way through anxiety, to help talk to people when they're feeling melancholic or angry even. It doesn't have to be a deterrent. And a lot of times it's a cry out for help. So help us to stay in the mindset that we need to talk so that we can help people to get out of these moods, or to comfort them through their moods, so that we can get in a better space to know that we're loved, to know that we're cared about, to know that we're appreciated, to know that we matter. Father, thank you for first loving us, for first showing us that we matter despite our moods. We love you. We thank you. And these things I ask in your son, Jesus' name. Amen. All right, you all. Good morning, Conversations with Dee. How are you? Good to see you. Good to see you. All right, so I'm getting ready to head out, and I hope you all have a beautiful day. I hope stay in a good mood. And if you see someone in a bad mood or, in a challenging mood, one of these challenging moods that we talked about this morning, go chit chat with them if possible. Put on your white gloves and deal with them gently. Okay. So you all have a beautiful day, and I will see you all hopefully tomorrow on the Positive Pushers channel at 8:00. All right. And then I also have a video coming out tomorrow morning. If you all get a chance to look at that, I would appreciate it. And then I'll be back here again for class on Friday. On Friday, we'll be back here for class at 5 a.m. All right, y'all have a wonderful day. Love you all. Be blessed and be the light. Take care.